Today's stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello, let's talk about audio production, and with me here as usual is Arya. How are you doing, Arya?
Hello, how's it going? I'm okay, you know. Like the world and stuff is weird, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, papers and complications of citizenship and everything.
Yeah, and COVID and all of that.
Yeah, life is complicated, but you know what is not complicated? Reaper is not complicated. Oh no, wait. Yes, it is. It is complicated too. So what we have on the menu today is to just do something light to start the year, kicking things off with something fun and easy, which is to just talk about how we use Reaper, what we like about it, what we maybe don't like about it, and then dive into some weird menus that maybe we haven't been there before. And you know who is here? Bo is here. Hello, Bo.
Oh, hello, Bo.
My segues are great today. So, to kick things off, I thought we could decide where we want to go, because Reaper is huge and we are not going to talk about everything. So, and it kind of overlaps with what you do on your channel, the tutorials and everything. But I thought that the conversation we could have today is a bit different, because we are not necessarily going to teach how to use the features. I mean, for that, there are already your tutorials and Kenny Joya and the Reaper blog, but sometimes it's difficult to pick up all the pieces and make up a workflow that works. And also, there are so many features and you don't necessarily know which ones to not use, what parts of Reaper to ignore. And I've been on that rabbit hole many times before with text editors, because I am a programmer, so text editors are a big thing for me. And I used to use text editors that are somewhat like Reaper in the sense that they are huge, many features, and the defaults don't really work all that well, and you have to sort of make up your own workflow. And at some point, I eventually come up with a whole workflow, and I think it's great, but then I spend more time tweaking things than actually doing stuff. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely, like, I would still say, well, maybe I no longer say it, but I've been using Reaper for 2 years. So relatively, like, short time compared to the time I've been using DAWs in general. But yeah, like, when I got Reaper, I was like, well, I'm going to just start a project. I had a project at the time. I was working on a video game. And I was already at the delivery stage. So a lot of the annoying bits of it, I had already done in, like, just super painfully in Pro Tools. So I was like, okay, well, I'll finish the project in Reaper, renaming stuff, all of that. And then as I do it, and then I picked up like a mixing project. I just grabbed some multi-tracks online and I started mixing. And I was like, as I do stuff, I will customize it. But also, like, yeah, I still kind of tweak some things because maybe I've written like an hour and a half of music in Reaper in total. So that part is like good for now. But every once in a while, I think of something new, and I enjoy customizing it. So it definitely becomes a rabbit hole. And it definitely, I mean, like Reaper kind of makes you have to do some customizations, especially in the realm of MIDI. Um, so in a way, it's like the way I look at it. It's like definitely no DAW took like 3 months to to finish, get the workflow um, like done on it. So yeah, you just kind of do it in an iterative way, right? Like you do a little bit, work on a few projects. One example I can give is I used to have a grid setup like you have there. So you have frame grids for video, and then you have some common grid times, and you have triplets. And then I was like, well, that's a lot of space. So then I started using something else, and then I deleted those from my toolbar.
Yeah, I
Little
actually
things like that.
came up with this today. And by the way, Bob's is here. Hello. Great to have you here. And if there are
Hello,
some
Bob.
things that you all want us to talk about, then make sure that you comment in the chat. But yeah, so let's start there. Toolbar customization. I am doing very simple stuff here. And I came up with this today. I think it was based on a Reaper blog tutorial. And the thing that I would like to have maybe is the thing that you do have, which is in Ableton Live. I'm not going to open Ableton Live right now because when I do, it takes over control of my audio interface and messes up the stream. But in Ableton Live, there is just on the corner a tiny little number saying what is the grid size. And that's all I need really, because I use keyboard shortcuts to go up and down. So it's mostly a matter of seeing what is the division of the grid.
I see. Yeah, I definitely can see. So you just kind of want a display of what the grid is.
Yes. And I
There
agree that
is one thing you can use, which lets me remember what it was called. But anyway, sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say that I agree that this is a lot of space for such a simple thing.
I'm blanking on the name of the thing that I'm looking for, and I'm trying to remember who made it. Possibly Amagalma. There's basically what it is like an advanced transport bar that shows you your grid size, among other things. Yeah, that would be something. But that would be also something, yeah, like would be nice if just on your transport bar, it told you the grid size. Like this is a great point. I never thought of it like that. Like I kind of just look at it and I know most of the time, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't. In fact, I turned something on that it's probably not even visible on this theme, but I turned something, it's a setting somewhere buried deep in the menus that is supposed to highlight every other measure. I don't think it works all that well. They all look kind of dark gray to me. This whole theme looks
I
too
have that
dark gray.
now.
Can sort of see it alternating, but yeah, that helps a little. Again, something that Ableton does. I really like the way that Ableton shows stuff. And I have a print screen here, and it's terrible, but this is what I'm looking for. It's just this number here saying what is my grid size. Essentially, that's I think what I would need, and if it's in the transport, all the better.
Yeah. I'll find that thing that I was looking for, but it's also not great. But I don't use it. It's bulky and big, and you can't exactly replace the transport bar with it. You have to hide your transport bar, and then it kind of takes like a little bit extra, too much space. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I can't find it.
So what do you use for this?
So for that, what I do use, and this doesn't give me a display, but I use Amagalma set project grid via drop down menu. So I have set it to a random button. Well, I have set it to my equal sign, but I have then assigned equal sign to a little button on my mouse. So I press the button and I get the top one. So run that action. So I hit a button on my mouse and a drop down menu pops up. And you may have to assign something to it for it to work.
No, it is working,
okay,
but it's
there.
behind you. Let me do this. I didn't realize that it was behind you. So it works like this, and it is. I don't think that this is what I want. I really like the Ableton Live keyboard shortcuts to go up and down the grid and turn off the snapping and go to triplets and back. It's just command 1, 2, 3, 4, and it works very well for me. But I would like to see what's going on, because I just by looking at this, I have a hard time navigating this.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like in this particular instance, if I looked at your display, I would say you're in quarter because we only could see 4 of those, not 8. And then you zoom in, now we see 8. So yeah, I totally agree with you. A display.
That's another thing,
exist.
actually. Ideally, I would like to set this to 0 so that the thing you just mentioned doesn't happen, because usually the grid display is dependent on the zoom. I don't like that. So I would like to change this. But as soon as I close the project, it goes away. That setting is project dependent. So,
Oh, interesting. So that's one of those things. This is a metronome thing too. You have to do it in a blank project, save it as your default project. It still won't be applied to your existing projects, but then for all your new projects, like people who change their metronome sounds have to do the same thing, right? So you change it in a blank project, save it as your default.
That's actually a good point. That I know how to do settings for the defaults on the tracks here and the media items here. And I know how to have defaults for the project settings. But what I don't know is how to have a default project.
So you save it as a project template first, and you can call it whatever. And then there's in preferences, like page 2 or something in the preferences, go to, I think it's in project. When creating new projects, use the following project as a template.
So it's not really a default project. It's more like a template that, well, I guess it becomes the default.
Yeah, it becomes the default when you like run it. And like definitely things like that. Like if you don't want your grid to be like fluid, let's call it, by your zoom, that should definitely be something that would be a preference. Same thing with like metronome sounds. They could be a preference. And these are things that I honestly think, if Reaper had more than 2 people like writing all the code for it, like they would have added already. And like I give them all the time in the world and I love them and everything, but it's like, let's go, fellas.
and what are you talking about? The notion of a default project or the notion of storing this as global settings?
Yeah, all of that needs to be stored, like be possible to store. Like it's cool that you can right click on the metronome and you have all the controls there. That should still exist. But then there should be a menu in the preferences where you can set this stuff and it will always be the same. So literally they need to copy this menu and put it in the preferences and then save it with your configurations instead of saving it with the project. And people can have like a tick box, like I want to have this setting per project, or I want to have this setting globally. Something like that would be cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's catch up with what you all are saying on the chat. Topic for discussion. There's probably a way to move entire sections of a song around, but I don't know what it is. I just grab beats and pray it works. Regions, yes. That's what I was going to say. I can show you real quick. So suppose that I have here This is the whole song, so I can grab part. I'm changing keyboard shortcuts recently, so yeah, I'm still getting used to things. Let me insert a region, and I'm pretty sure that I have a keyboard shortcut for this.
Shift and T, I think, is the default, but you seem to have changed it. Region from time selection.
Yeah, insert region from time selection. And then if you move the region, it is going to move the contents of the region as well. You can see that it took this out of here. And you can even copy and paste regions, and it is going to copy and paste the contents of the region as well. But I don't seem to know how to do that.
You need
Select
to do,
region.
if you haven't changed the default, you can do it by control or command and dragging as well.
Ah, yeah, okay, that's a good point. There you go. Copies the contents as well.
Yeah.
And Fotis is here. Hello, great to have you. And coming back from Cubase, I didn't like that the arrange window was black in Reaper, so getting the background to white helped a lot with Scene the Grid. That is a good point. We can talk about themes in general. Do you use a different... I know that you don't use a different theme, but have you played around with different themes?
I played around. I changed themes, and literally in less than half an hour, I'm like, no. I go back to the Reaper. I actually think I genuinely, no joke, think it just looks really, really good. Looks better than the themes. The themes always look like just slightly imperfect. And sometimes they are missing certain features that like little small display things, but nevertheless things that I use. So one thing is, if you solo one of your tracks, so solo track 2 or track 1, you see that little thing is missing from so many of the themes. And that's a useful thing because, when you solo a thing and it has sends and receives, some tracks technically don't get muted. So it's good to have things like that. But I do tweak the default theme, and that's one thing. Like you said, you have this alternating colors for your timeline. You could use the theme tweaker and make that be a lot different. It's definitely good. And people have different types of not the theme adjuster, the theme tweaker. That's a different thing. That's in the action list. Yeah, that one. The X-Frame one is cool too. And then what you're looking for, I guess, is something. I guess arrange window background. Or arrange, or just go background. You gotta go really by your use very vague terms and then do a lot of searching. The theme tweaker is hard. Sometimes you just think, oh, I found the thing that I need to change, and then it just doesn't change at all.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tweak that right now. I'm sort of okay with the colors.
Time.
And one thing that I did not mention about the project's defaults thing is that I don't use project templates. You can see it's empty. And that's because I get nervous about what exactly did I change on this template? I forget what. So one thing that I did is I came up with these actions that you probably know about, but maybe someone on the chat doesn't know about, which is these actions here: prepare project for audio editing and for video editing. So I can show you what this looks like on a new empty project. I don't have a template, so I did tweak the project settings, but I didn't tweak all the other things we talked about, like the metronome is still on the defaults. And that's something that I often come here and I crank up the volume because I cannot hear the metronome. In any case, what this does is it's going to ask you some relevant questions like your frame rate and whatnot, but it's going to do all the things that I would do on a project template, except that it's not a project template, it's an action. And it does things like setting the timeline to hours, minutes, seconds, and frames instead of bars and beats, and it sets the snapping in a way that makes sense. And yeah, all those things that are related to video editing. So for instance, I can zoom into the timeline here and you see that even though the grid is not visible, the snap is still on, which means that it snaps to the frame and I don't get black frames. I mean, if you turn off snapping, then you could put an item in between frames, and then for that small period here, the screen would be black. So, and similarly for audio editing, which is not like music, it's for editing a podcast or something. For that, I do similar settings, but without the video part of it. So that's my sort of hacky solution to project templates. And the cool thing about this is that it's only going to touch the things that are necessary to make a video project work, but not anything else. So even if you have some project templates with, let's say, metronome settings for whatever reason, you can still use my action that is going to apply all the things that you need to make video editing more comfortable.
Like even in the same project, right? You can switch a few times between these two modes. Say you're like doing a video editing, but you're also trying to sync up like a beat to an edit, right? You can go back and forth between these two.
Not quite.
Modes.
My action is one way only.
Okay.
But I guess I could make the action be a toggle, and then it would need to remember the previous settings and switch back to them. That would work. It could be done, but I haven't gotten there yet. And I guess if I were to do that, I would probably be doing the music part of it in a separate project and then bring it in as a sub project. But I haven't really used sub projects to know if they're any good. Have you tried them?
Yeah, sub projects are pretty awesome. Honestly, they're one of those things where like they are really useful, but because they're such a uniquely Reaper thing, many aspects of my workflow that could probably benefit from sub projects, I still do the old school way because that's how my brain works. But yeah, like sub projects are the business, right? Like if sub projects existed from the beginning, I'd be using them like so much more often than I do now. But yeah, like I, for example, would do like if I'm doing an album, right? I'll finish all the mixes, then I'll import them into a new project as sub projects. So that way I have a mix, I'm committed to a mix, but at the same time, if I decide like, oh, I need to turn the drums down on this mix, it's really easy. Double click, go to the project, turn it down, and then come back.
And
like
I haven't really
useful.
used them. So in terms of editing, can you split and move them around and do the same things you would usually do with any kind of item?
It kind of works the same as freezing. So, you know, when you like freeze a track, you can split it and move it around. If you unfreeze it, it'll go, hey, like, what the hell, man? Like if I unfreeze, I'm gonna revert back all these edits that you did. So it's the same thing for sub projects. But I mean, one thing you can do is just make a copy, right? If you need to go back to the source, you go back to the source.
No, but okay, so if you start a mastering session with this sub project and decide to change the drums, if you have done any editing in terms of like splitting things around to make the timing work or whatever, if you make any edits, then you lose them when you go into the drums and tweak?
So when you go to the sub project, basically every time you save a sub project, it renders that audio file in the kind of master project again. So yeah, when you're about to save and do that, it goes, hey, like in the master project, I no longer am that one continuous item. So do you want to just get that one item back or no? If you say no, then nothing is saved. Yeah, so it's best like in the case of a mastering, right? You've already done the mix, you finished the mix, you've done all the editing. You're just putting like effects on your mix, or you're just kind of writing automation on it. In that case, it's useful. If there's any editing you need to do, you should really just do it before you get into a sub project setup.
That's interesting. I thought that I don't have a lot of experience. I'm reading the book on mastering that everyone reads, Mastering Audio by Bob Katz. Yeah, I'm reading that one. And the impression that I got is that people used to edit in the mastering sessions to do things like applause in the middle of a live concert or things like that. So if you are going to do tweaks to the applause and put an EQ for whatever reason, then it would mess up the mastering project, right?
But in that case, the applause, wouldn't it be, that would just be an audio file in your mastering project, right? And the sub project would be the mix of the song portion.
Well,
right?
maybe,
No?
but maybe the applause is a collage of several parts that make sense together. I don't know. I'm just saying this is what came to mind, but so I guess I don't really like that. I think that instead of using sub-projects, if I had to, I probably would just bounce the sub-project and import it as an audio file that I can quickly swap underneath. Which is something that I have done actually to do proxying. I had this big project, a 4K project, and my wife was going to edit on a laptop. The laptop not only didn't have enough power to edit 4K, but it didn't have enough space on the disk to store all the files. So I just used FFmpeg to create proxy files that were much smaller, I guess 720p. She edited in Reaper on her laptop. I brought the project back to my main computer and I just swapped the MP4s. And Reaper was like, I don't see what is different. It's just a bunch of MP4s. Let me go ahead and render the 4K project for you. And I know that Reaper doesn't really have the feature of proxy files for video editing, but it sort of does.
So in that thing that you're saying, I haven't tried doing this. So it could be possible that in your sub-project, because the way you kind of tell your sub-project like what to bounce is using these two markers like equal time start, equal time end. So I don't know, maybe if you have two pairs of equal time start and equal time end, that would still happen. But yeah, I see what you mean. And I don't think that's possible. And I think like overall, like with the like mastering book by Bob Katz is the perfect example of this. Like if sub projects were a thing in DAWs, then mastering engineers would have a workflow around it, and they would have be like, oh, so for the applause thing, we would do that in the project and that. Something like that, right? But because it's not, it's kind of like with electronic or techno music, it's a lot of like loops of 1 or 2 or 4 bars. And that's due to the limitation of hardware that in the early days of techno were available, like loopers and little things that you could do samples and chopping and all of that. They were limited to 1 or 2 or 4 bars. So that informs the genre. So this is a similar thing. Like sub-projects are a Reaper thing. So there's not a lot of workflow around. You have to invent your own workflow when it comes to sub-projects. And for me, it's like, oh, like bringing my music edits for a film into the dialogue project just so I can reference the music as I mix the dialogue. But there's so much like hidden potential in sub-projects, and there's so much like hidden limitation in sub-projects that people probably would experience when they start using them.
I see. So let's see what else people are saying. My voice is echoing on Aria's side. That is a known problem. Aria monitors very loudly, and sometimes it bleeds.
Oh, but I fixed that.
Oh, did you? I hear myself
say
coming back.
Say something now.
Hello? I guess that's better. Yeah, I guess that's better.
Yeah.
Well, now you hear it again. Yeah, maybe there is a gate somewhere. But what did you do to fix it?
I do have a gate. I just have a gate, but the gate is, I mean, if I'm talking and you're talking also, then the gate is open. But if I stop talking and you can talk.
Yeah, okay. So you know what you need. I guess you know what you need, right?
Push to talk.
No. That's annoying.
Oh.
No, what you need is the auto mixer. I mentioned this before, but I have this effect. It's called the auto mixer. Where is it? Auto
They're
mixer.
in plugins. Oh, it is a plugin. It's not an action.
Yeah, it's a plugin. So you just route multiple tracks into this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have a whole video on how to do the setup for this, but the idea is that you would use this if you had multiple microphones on the same space and you're recording, like a round table something.
Yeah.
And this is going to allocate the gain for the different tracks according to the gain of the whole thing, as if there was only one microphone and people were passing it around. So what you need is to have an auto mixer sitting above your microphone and my Skype feed going to you. It's not Skype anymore. My Video Ninja feed going to you. So that when I am speaking, my voice is going to not mute, not gate, but it would duck your microphone. And when you're speaking, it will duck, well, my voice, but for you, but it doesn't really matter, right? So yeah, I guess that's the ideal setup that you need, or earplugs, whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just found adaptive grid, which adapts the grid divisions as you zoom in and out. Oh, but isn't that the default behavior?
It changes the display of the grid, but the actual grid remains the same. So I think what Andrew is saying is like if you're zoomed out, your grid is now 1. And then if you're zoomed really out, your grid is now like 4 bars. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen the script. I've never really needed it, honestly. Because when I do need the grid on my arrange view, it's when I do video editing. When I do music editing, I just have zero use for the grid. Either I'm recording music, so I'm hearing things, or I'm doing MIDI, in which case I got a whole grid set up in my MIDI editor. Yeah, so I'm either in frame grid or I don't really care what the grid is on the arrange.
Interesting. First of all, I don't think that this adaptive grid is for me. I like to have a set grid. In fact, I think it's the other way around for me. I think I would prefer to not adapt the display.
Anything.
Yeah, I if it is a frame kind of thing and I'm zoomed out, I do want to see kind of a black screen almost, because that's the grid size that I have. And if I don't like that grid size, I will change it. But that's the way that I reason about it. So I don't think that this is for me. But the thing you just mentioned where you don't really care about the grid size for the arrange view, I kind of care about that a lot, especially when I am doing MIDI items and or maybe even just chopping up some recording and I want it to loop. Then I want the loop to be precise. For me, I don't know why. There is something that I do that is wrong, and I think I kind of discovered what it was. It was over here in the snap settings. Was it here? I forget.
Explain the issue, and I'll
well,
probably
the issue was that if I was just ever so slightly off, I don't know why that would happen, but sometimes I would be ever so slightly off. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue these items so that when I loop, it is going to be looping ever so slightly off. And when I loop a lot, it's going to be a lot off. And I think that the issue was that my cursor was, I guess I was using the default. It was snapping not only to the grid, but it was also snapping to the other elements.
Oh, like other items. Yeah.
And then if
you were in the right place.
Oh, yeah. I think I changed that yesterday or today. I spent a lot of time yesterday and today tweaking things in here.
It's the snap media items to nearby media items up to 10 tracks away, or snap media items apart by. That one is really weird, but yeah, snap media items to nearby media items up to 10 tracks away. I have that off. Yeah,
it's probably in your... I think that is a setting that is project specific. Let me close this one.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
project specific. So yeah, I guess I could come up with one of those weird actions, but maybe you see.
Just do the default. So if you do the default template and your project is blank, but you just do this stuff, I mean, you don't even need to like think about what happened. And if you ever see anything's off, then you know kind of go like where to go and check. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the end of the world, but it's not ideal either. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, I don't know this theme. I know the usual suspects, Smooth and Imperial, but I don't know this one.
Hello, Richie. How are you?
And the thing that I don't like about this theme is that sometimes it doesn't have enough contrast. For instance, here it's kind of hard to tell when this bar is over. And even in the mixer, everything is too dark and too gray. And yeah, I know I can tweak that. I know there are other themes that tweak that, but that's my take on it. Okay. All right. So where do you want to dive? We have many options. I will give you some options. We can start by talking about your favorite Reaper feature, whatever that may be. We could dive into some of these menus and talk about things like takes and comps and how to use or not use them. And we could go into the preferences and talk about things that we like and dislike in here, or maybe this kind of settings.
Actually, before we do any of that, I was trying to set up the auto mixer. I think I have an older version of the auto mixer where it's still, you had to set its track channels to 4, right? You have to like give it extra track channels to get 2 feeds.
So here's how you can do it. Let's suppose that, well, I guess you have 2 microphones. I'm just going to say suppose that you have 4 microphones, but you only have 2. So there is this action called Auto Mixer Setup. You just select the tracks and you call this, and it's going to route everything for you. And it's going to drop the Auto Mixer in the track.
Do I select the parent that's part of that the auto mixer is on, or just the children?
Just select the children. It's going to create a parent for you.
I actually don't even have REAPER installed on this second version of Reaper that I'm using just for my audio, so I'll just do that manually, whatever. It's going to take a while. Anyway, sorry, what was your question?
I guess you can do that some other time.
Yeah.
The echo is not too bad now that the gauge is on. At least for me.
Nah, it's not too bad. People are always like, me. I think what it is like sometimes if you're talking and I'm like playing with something and it's making noise, the echo comes in. So I just got to remember not to like fiddle with stuff, and it'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but the auto mixer is a very smart idea, actually. The auto mixer isn't a gauge. It's dependent on the total gain of all the microphones, which is smart because first...
Yeah, I use it on the TV show that you made the graphics for.
Oh, you do? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing about the auto mixer is that it is automatic. You don't have to set a threshold. It is not going to modulate the noise floor because it is not ever going to try to go to 0 dB or minus infinity dB. And yeah, it's a very smart idea that I'm glad I got into that. It was my first JS effects. Right, so the question that I had for you before is, what do you want to explore? The preferences, different features like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we can just grab it. I will tell you that I basically never ever go to any of those top windows except extensions. Anything else, never go there.
But
because I'm like, where is it? I just look in the action list. All of it is in the action list. It's so much easier. Like if I want to say I want to look for stretch markers. I mean, okay, that's obviously an item. Or you go to options, for example. I want to look for like locking, or I want to look for metronome or solo in front. Like all of it is in the action list. So instead of thinking like, oh, where is the thing, I just go to the action list.
yeah, the
And
reason why
I set hotkeys for the ones that I like.
the reason why I kind of like these menus is because of the exploration. If you go to the action list, everything is in here. Everything. It's a lot. It is a whole lot. It's overwhelming.
I see.
But if I go here, I can see the options that are probably the most relevant. I learned about features like what are item groups, what are item takes, what are item comps, and I learned most of the things that the Reaper developers think are the most important ones are here, like spectral edits. I didn't know that was a thing before I started diving into this. So I was just using this as an excuse to talk about the features in here. But I guess that you already mentioned one feature that I do want to talk about, which is portable installs. I heard that you are using them. So what do you use them for?
Yeah. So first of all, I have 3 right now. I have 4 Reapers that I use. So I got a Reaper for music. I have a separate Reaper for video editing because there's a 10 screen set limitation in Reaper. So in my music Reaper, for example, I have 2 or 3 screen sets that are MIDI based. And then when I video edit, I don't want those. And there are other screen sets that I want. So I have like separate screen sets for when I'm editing a vertical video for like Instagram versus a horizontal video like my tutorials. I use different screen sets because like if your video window is going to be vertical, the same space that it's taken just makes no sense, vertical and horizontal. And then I have some 2 screen setups and some 1 screen setups. So I have 2 for that. I have a third Reaper install that I'm using right now for my voice that I use for when I stream, because like sometimes I'm mixing on one of my streams. So my buffer size is set to 1024, and then I need a separate Reaper where the buffer size is set to 256 that's processing my audio latency free or virtually latency free. And then I have a 4th Reaper that's completely default with no hotkeys changed and like no SWS or RIA pack on it, and that I mostly use for tutorials when I need to know like what was the default for a thing that I changed 2 years ago, or is this a hotkey that I set or something that exists. I kind of like reference that one. So that's why I have like 4 portable installs, and I have some backups as well.
Oh man, I have so many questions. To begin with, a technical question. The sample rate is a property of the audio interface. If I change this sample rate if I change it in Reaper, OBS is going to see that. Zoom, Skype, everyone on my computer, all software on my computer is going to see that. But the buffer size is specific to Reaper. Is this correct?
Yeah, and in fact, in Reaper, you request a buffer size. Reaper is not obligated to oblige, which is an interesting thing. Like you're like, can I have 1024? And Reaper's like, I'll think about it and I'll let you know.
Are there cases in which Reaper doesn't comply?
I think I think you can set that to 10,000, and then Reaper may be like, well, no, I'm not doing that. I'll just do the maximum. And I think you can set it to like 10, and again, Reaper would be like, no, I'm going to use 28. Yeah, so I think that's what it mostly is. So I think maybe there are certain kind of like upper and lower limits that you just can't hit. But yes, it is Reaper based. So I have two different block sizes running next to each other on two Reaper installs. And yeah, that seems to not be causing any issues.
Okay, but if you
Well, the
wanted to do
issue it's causing.
two sample rates would not work, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting question too. Yeah, I think two sample. Well, like I mean, two sample rates, recording two sample rates. That's not gonna work. But editing in two sample rates, I think that will work. Like if I have two projects open and one of them is 96K and one of them is 48K, if I'm not recording, if I'm just bouncing files, I think that's kosher. But yeah, you can't record. I can't like, and I mean the other limitation that comes in there, it's like how would you even record in two different sample rates? You set one sample rate on a device. If you have two devices and you're using them aggregate, again you have to set one of your devices is the master, and whatever the sample rate of that is set to, that will be that for the other ones, right? So you have clock source, Mac Mini speakers, and the sample rate that. So even if you go and manually change your sample rate on the H5, if that's even a possibility, you're still working for recording in one sample rate. But I think, or not, I'm pretty sure there's no limitation in terms of like, bouncing 96K out of one project and a project is open in another tab, you're bouncing 48K from it. I think no problem.
I see. Yeah. I am always nervous about this, so I just let everything on the system be at 48K, and that's another reason why I don't want to open Ableton or Logic on the stream, because if I do, they are going to try to take over the audio interface, and who knows what they're going to do in terms of the sample rate. I did that in the past and it messed the stream because it went to 44.1. And even
no, you're totally right to do that. And really, like, yes, pick a sample rate, stick to it until you're recording something you need to record in 96K, in which case switch, but like, yeah, you're okay.
Yeah.
48K.
And
unify everything.
Another question that I have, a follow-up, is you mentioned how you have two Reaper installations, two portable installs for streaming, and I have a similar scenario here where I have two Reapers. The Reaper on the right is for the stream, and that's my voice here, and then Reaper on the left is what I am showing you all on the screen. But I don't have two portable installs. I just opened two different instances, which is not something you can do from the menu. I have a shortcut for this, but and it's actually something that I tried. I tried to have two sample rates, and as soon as it changed the sample rate in one of the Reapers, the other changes as well, because it's a property of the audio interface. But if you change the block size, you can have two different block sizes, even on different instances of the same installation. So now my question is, what is the advantage of having two portable installs over spawning two instances?
Like one thing is, for example, like in this other Reaper that I'm using right now, and I don't have Repack and SWS, and I don't have like many plugins, so it loads marginally faster, but that's not the reason I use it. The reason I use it is like on this Reaper install, I'm never gonna do any editing. I'm never gonna do any like automation fancy stuff. So I can like press M to mute myself. You know what I mean? Like that's what I use M for. So you can have different hotkeys. You can have different toolbars. I have a different screen set again here where I basically have a screen set where I can take my project and make it full screen, or I can just have it really kind of tucked to the corner. So I'm mostly like extra screen sets, extra hotkeys, and like the default toolbar and things like that being different. And then I use two different devices as well. So the device that I'm using on this one is an aggregate device. That's my microphone plus a black hole that goes to you. And on my main Reaper, I may want a different type of device. In the case of our streams today, I could totally go with one Reaper, but in the case of like when I do mixes, I'm selecting two different interfaces. So when you use when you say spawn a new instance of Reaper, you can have different devices. Is that right?
Yes, you can.
Ah, I didn't know that. So yeah, but still, like with my hotkeys being different and things like that, like I still there's no downside to using, I guess, multiple instances of Reaper. Or
Well,
maybe I should do a test.
there are downsides, and that's my next question. Well, I guess in your case, it's desirable to have different keyboard shortcuts, but what if you learn a new thing that you like to have on the menu bar, or a new thing that a new keyboard shortcut, or a new script, or even a new version of Reaper comes out? How do you keep things in
Yeah.
sync?
Yeah, I mean, no, you update twice, right? You do those things. Yeah, that's totally a thing that I do end up doing sometimes between my video editor and my music editing one. But slowly they are also like diverging a lot, and that's really cool too. So slowly they have now different track templates. Slowly they have different toolbars, and they are like, as time goes by, they become more different and more different. And also the likeliness of me needing to like implement something into both of them becomes less. But yeah, that is totally a thing where when an update comes, I have to update to separate Reaper. I don't really update my 3 and 4 unless I do, but my Reaper 1 and 2 I do update separately. And it takes a little bit of time, but whatever, who's counting time?
I see. The way that I do it is I install most of my software using Homebrew. So when a new version comes out, I just Homebrew upgrade Reaper, and I have a new version of Reaper. So that's
Wow.
what it would make me nervous to have multiple versions that I needed to update. And I am trying to go with an approach of having a single Reaper that does it all. That when I spawn it with the streaming project, it is ready for streaming. When I spawn it with the video editing project, which I guess is this weird prepare for video editing, it's ready for that. But I learned about how you can use pre-roll. And then, okay, but what if I am doing some voiceover on a video and I want to do a pre-roll? Now I need to add this to the menu bar of the other Reaper instance over there. So that gets me like,
You can also, like, if you want different hotkeys and stuff, you can still have that within one Reaper install. So you do like importing and exporting key maps. Because again, when I do video editing, I play with rate of stuff a lot. So I have W changing the rate, and I have a lot of actions set up where it's like not fill the gap, remove the gap between two items. Things like that I never use in music, and I have like just one button hotkeys for those. So the only thing that without portable installs, it's next to impossible to do is screen sets. And I mean, screen sets, again, you can import and export configurations, but that just takes too long. Like I literally did a test and I was like, well, if you want to import and export configurations, you import, then you restart Reaper. So it's faster to have a second Reaper that you just opened versus opening an instance of Reaper, importing the thing, restarting Reaper for the changes to take effect. So that's the only real true limitation of why I use portable installs. Otherwise, there's no way for me to. And I guess, I don't know. Yeah, there are certain nice things about it that I like. I can also have both open. But I guess, yeah, this spawn new instance of Reaper, I didn't know that you can have different devices on them. So that next argument is null and void.
The cool thing, this is a cool trick, is that you can open multiple instances of any software. Do you know about this?
No.
Yeah, so let's say I have a terminal open. I am opening
Ableton?
Sorry. What did you say?
Like if it was Ableton, you could do it.
Yes, I'm going to show you how.
Wow.
I am not
Okay.
going to use Ableton as the example because Ableton happens to have all the issues I already mentioned. But let's pretend that I want to open two instances of the terminal, right? If I just click here on the terminal, of course, it's going to open the same one. But I can open on the terminal, but you can do scripts, you can use Automator on the Mac. many different ways of doing this. And then you go to applications. In this case, it's under utilities terminal. Or is it not there? It's not under utilities? Oh man, where?
I remember it being.
Where is the terminal? Utilities.
Should be in utilities.
It is there.
You have to type .app.
But it was supposed to autocomplete. In any case, the file does not exist. What the hell? It does exist. It is right here. Can I drag and drop?
I suppose you can.
Oh,
yeah.
It's under system. Okay. It's in a different place. It's kind of hidden. Interesting. I didn't know that. In any case, I think it's this flag, the -n. Let's see. Now I have 2 instances.
Oh, cool.
See? And if I type on one, it's not on the other. So they are literally 2 different windows here. Is this behind my face or your face?
The actual terminals are, but yeah, it would. We could see that there's 2.
Yeah, if I zoom in, then I think you'll be able to see that there are 2 windows now.
Yeah.
And they are separate. They are independent. It's not one app with 2 windows. It's literally 2 apps. If I come here and I quit, the other window is still there. And you can do the same with Ableton,
cool.
or you can do the same with OBS or anything. Just use this -n flag.
Nice.
And it is going to open a new instance of whatever app you want.
Oh, with OBS, it would be interesting. Like, say I want to record my webcam, and I want to record your webcam as 2 separate videos that I can edit in post. So I can do that?
Yes. People solve this issue in two ways. They either have a big canvas with both sources side by side, or they use this trick, open 2 OBS instances and record separately. But let me tell you, if you want to do this with OBS or even Ableton, I mean, Reaper can do it all right, but if you want to do 2 instances of OBS or Ableton, boy, go buy a new computer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, people are now speaking straight Swedish on the chat. It's like a IKEA catalog had a heart attack in the chat.
This is culturally offensive. Right. So here is something that we can do. I recently created a Discord for us all to talk about what we are going to do on the stream and whatnot. It's still an experiment. And I thought, well, what the hell? Why don't we invite more people to be there? That could be fun. So if you are on the chat...
Why don't you join the Reaper Discord too?
Well, I am there. The Rescript Discord, isn't that the one? Or is there another one that I don't know of?
The unofficial Reaper user Discord, something like that it's called. I should probably know the name. Wait, where is your screen? Oh. New. There's another one.
Ah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I thought I would just invite people over to this one, because I even thought about creating just a channel in here, but it's not really my place or our place. So I thought I could create this for it to be our place where we all are. And if you are on the chat right now, then I think you're part of the group. And if you want to join us, that would be sweet. So let me see if I can get an invitation to drop on the chat. But I'm new to Discord, so...
Yeah, I think these links like get expired or something. I'm also not a Discord expert, but there's a way of creating like a permanent invite link, which I guess maybe you don't even want to do anyway.
I would like to, but as far as I understand, I would have to turn this from a Discord that is just for friends into a Discord that is like for a community. I was looking into that. There is this enable community kind of thing, and I don't think that we are at that point right now. It's more like for our small group, couple friends. But if you all want to join us, that would be nice, because that's where we are going to discuss what we will do on the stream next.
Sure, sounds good.
Right.
Better than email. I always forget emails.
I don't know. It's yet another place to check, so.
True.
And if there's this other Discord for Reaper General, then can you invite me?
Yeah, I'll invite you right now.
Oh, nice. Thanks. I know that there is a Reaper Professionals Slack group, but that's not the Discord one.
Yeah, I'm on there too. That one's good. People talk math scripting stuff. It feels like the forefront. People are like, yo, the new dev build is sick. I'm like, where you guys get that even?
Yeah, it's yet another place to check. So I'm not sure that I love the idea, but we're giving it a try. Right. Okay. So screen sets. You seem to use them a lot, and I know what they are. I know how to use them, but I don't really find myself using them a lot. I have keyboard shortcuts to go to different windows, like if I want to go to the mixer or the actions or the effects list. But what is the selling point of screen sets? It sounds like yet more complication.
Yeah, 100%. All of this is extra setup, but yeah, I mean, like, so imagine, like, I do video editing, where I need to see a big video, but a little bit of a timeline. Then I do sound editing to video, where I would want to see a smaller video, but still see the video. And then I do music, where there's no video. And then I do MIDI editing to video and MIDI editing not to video. And then I do vertical video and horizontal video. So screen sets for me is one of those things that also I do tweak it as I go. And sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, let's add snapshots to my screen sets. I need to go add it to 10 screen sets, but it's definitely a huge time saver for me, because I switch between these like different types of workflows. And even things like when I have screen sets that I use for when I do my like mixing feedback Monday videos, because I use an overlay on those videos. So I want like a plugin to always fall in the same place, so that then when I import my PNG overlay on top of that, like it's always in the same place. You know what I mean? So for me, screen sets are like, yeah, like huge bit of my Reaper. But yeah, you can get away with one. And I have a main one that I use like 85% of the time. But it's nice to have these other ones. I can show you, let's see, is it simple for me to share a screen with you? You want to see something cool?
It's not super simple, unless you are using the OBS virtual camera, so you can just swap your video from your camera to be that.
That's what I was thinking of doing.
Okay. So that's easy for me to manage. But if we had to set up a different stream, a different OBS Ninja thing, that could be annoying. No, it's really simple for me to make you full screen if you want.
Sure. Yeah, you want to see some like custom actions and stuff that I use for this type of joink?
Yeah.
I can also explain it to you as well.
No, you are already full screen on the stream.
Oh, okay. Is that me? Yes. Nothing incriminating on the screen. No. Well, just my visa stuff. All right. So like, I have, say this is my main one, right? So I'm mostly in this one. And then you can make like one thing that I do, imagine if this was a really big project with tons of items and hundreds of tracks. I am like mixing a certain scene. I'm mixing this scene. So I can hit a hotkey and it doesn't work. So I can hit a hotkey. That's partially worked, but there's a bug with it, I think. So yes, there's a bug. Oh, okay, I know what the bug is. So I gotta revert back. I said, the bug is this track selection files item selection. So I do this, and I hit this, and I'm mixing just these 3 tracks out of a track that has hundreds and hundreds of projects. And I hit it again, and I'm back to normal, and my mixer is tucked in the corner again. So this is just one example, but this is like one of my really kind of time-saving actions, which is quick mix selected tracks. So like at the beginning, I load a new screen set that is my mixer really big, and it's only showing the tracks that I have selected, and the tracks that I do have selected are dictated by the items that I have selected. So this is really useful for like a film project where you have tons and tons of like tracks and tons of items scattered on these tracks, but not necessarily in order. So I have like 4 tracks up here, then down here where my music is, I have a couple tracks. And then further down where I have my, let's say, dialogue, that's there. So in any given scene, in any given moment, if I want to mix these, I can just select them. These tracks are selected, hit my action, mix the scene, hit it again, I'm back in business.
I see.
So for stuff like that, screen sets are really cool. So yeah, it loads my screen set 5, which is my mixer really big and my timeline really small. I do my thing. Then it just goes back to showing everything in the mixer panel and loads my window set 1. And here, as you can see, now that I have a main Reaper, that's my music one, and a video editor one, I'm not even at the point of having all 10 of mine in use. I have ones for Ninjam. I have one that the mixer is on the bottom. I honestly don't use this too much, but it also has a navigator. You know, and then when I do like my video editing one is still there just because I haven't replaced it with anything. So the video editor one is, yeah, it shows me the video just big enough that I can like write a score to it or perform to it or edit sound effects to it. And my media explorer is here. And then I can just go Shift F7, shift blowing some in my normal mode. I can go Shift Control and F9. That's my MIDI editing mode. And I can kind of resize this to whatever I want. And my video goes here. Yeah, it's nice and like convenient to quickly switch like workflows. I don't know why this looks like this. It could not. Yeah, stuff like that works hella well for me. Then there's some extra stuff you can do on this side here, and that stuff I was like, all right, that's a bit too much. But one day I'll probably, when I do tutorials of things, I just customize it for myself, and then if in 3 months I never use that feature again, I'm like, all right, well, that was a piece of crap.
And can you tell me more, really briefly? I said that I don't want to necessarily cover how things work or what they are, but snapshots in SWS, I don't know what this thing is. Can you explain this real quick?
Sure. Real quick. Okay. So real quick. So pretend these are drums, right?
Okay.
And I can open my snapshots, and by default, I have snapshots docked, so it comes here. So one thing I can do is, let's say these tracks, these are my drums. I can save a snapshot called start, right? So at the start, all of these faders are at 0, no pan, no plugins. Then I can adjust the levels a little bit, something like that. And I can maybe do some panning. So let's do this. Maybe change the polarity of a thing. And then I can put another one, call this like mix 1. So now I can click and change the mix between the start point where all the faders are 0, pans are center.
Oh man, this is snapshots are commits in Git.
Essentially, but not exactly. So not everything is saved with snapshots, right? If I delete this item didn't exist when I had my first snapshot, now it does. So snapshots just completely ignore items. Similarly, if I delete all this stuff, loading snapshots, they do nothing with the items. They do stuff with the tracks, right? So like you can't replace actual saving with snapshots. You still need to save your project and do save as for edits. But for mixing, like again, I can go
exactly.
new,
That's exactly like a commit in Git, because you save files, but you may or may not include those in the commit. You may put things in the Git ignore, right? And in fact, in older version control systems before Git, in things like CVS and Perforce, I think that the terminology was snapshots or... Cool. I may be misremembering this, but yeah, I think that there are some version control systems that use this terminology. So maybe that's where the SWS people got this from. Right? Yeah, fun. This is interesting. I don't think it's really for me again, but I like it.
Yeah, it's really useful in mixes for doing like comparisons and stuff. I really use it a lot specifically for drums. Because drums, it feels like everything kind of works together, right? So like adjusting a thing in your kick affects your snare. Putting a thing on your overhead affects the whole drum sound. So I do snapshots a lot because in drums, I feel like sometimes comparing one thing with another thing, there's like 16 steps in between. So it really helps. There's also some quirks to snapshots. For example, if you have automation, you switch between the automation modes. But if you switch to a snapshots that never had automation to begin with, it leaves the automation there. It doesn't revert the automation back to being nothing. You can change automation. So there's little things like that where I don't know if it's a bug or if there's a design reason behind it. Once you're aware of these things existing, you can definitely find ways around them. But yeah,
it's in touch mode for the envelopes.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Because I don't know. And
of course, plugin settings and all of that is also saved. So with plugin settings and even mute and solo states and things like that, it saves those as well.
And that's specific to the project.
Yeah, completely.
I see. Speaking of mixing, is there a way to completely hide the arrangement area? Because, for instance, when we are doing the stream, I have this Reaper instance that is just for the stream, and then I can make the mixer really big, or I can put it on its own window. But I would like to the same way that I can hide the mixer, I would like to be able to hide the arrangement. And I don't think that that's possible, is it?
Yeah. No, I mean, best you can, you still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like best you can do is this, but then you can't like dock stuff to this mixer.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool, right? If I could have like a little like my automation toolbar, right? I would love to have that docked to the mixer. Just see the mixer, but no, the arrange view is also your command center of sorts. So for me personally, and somehow my hotkeys are right now not working. Like, yeah, the smallest you can get it is like to this size kind of deal. And then duck whatever you want to this stuff. But yeah, you need it if you need your toolbars to be docked places. Basically, you can only dock to the arrange view. So yes, you can have these on separate windows, but you need the arrange at some point to have a logical, uncluttered workflow, which is, it's a thing that I would like to have. Like, at least the mixer could have its own dock and I'll be cool. Like, I don't need everything to be dockable to every single other thing, but yeah, that would be a life improvement. Other things just like that would be really cool. So, you can customize your menus, right? And when a menu has drop downs, like let's say right here, if I go to the view, we can see this type of thing. So time unit for ruler, little sign, and then this is the sub menus on that area. And then again, a secondary time unit drop downs there. So they could introduce the same thing for toolbars. You go to toolbars, you make a drop down. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
Like you
think
have a
that can be
drop down for
done.
grid.
I think that can be
Yeah.
done with Reaper scripts. If your action on the menu is going to, or on the menu bar, is going to trigger a script, the script can open a graphical user interface that is just transparent and opens the model and does what you want.
Oh, but what I mean is like a way to click on this toolbar icon and then 3 icons become available on the bottom that I can click on. I
Yeah.
don't think you can script that, can you? Oh, you can?
Yeah, you just open a graphical user interface and you put your icons there. It wouldn't be tweakable using the menu that you just showed, but you would have to come up with a different menu to customize that. But it's possible. I think there is a thing called radial menu. I don't use that, but I think it's similar to that in spirit, kind of.
Yeah, radio menus are cool. They're cool. I used to use them a lot. Now I no longer really use them. They are awesome. Can you dock this? I don't think you can dock it. But you can kind of quickly call it up and get rid of it. Or you can have it so that you hold the key and this comes in, and once you choose something, it closes it automatically. They are very cool. I honestly, for me, I just didn't enter that workflow because again, like you come into Reaper with baggage and your baggage is old DAWs that you couldn't customize. So I have that baggage. I'm like, oh, like I need a thing. Okay, click up here, right? I didn't get to the workflow of like, oh, I need a thing, command and Q, and then go there and then go here and boom,
Yeah.
But that's next level shit.
Yeah, I can see the ancestors of Reaper conceptually because there are window managers for Linux that do fancy things like screen sets, and even the dockable kind of thing is something that you can do with window managers on Linux. And there are people that go
Sick.
way deep into that. There is a whole culture of window managers and customizing desktops like that. I can see where Reaper came from with this.
That's so interesting. I actually wouldn't mind having some stuff like that. Like yeah, because once you work with Reaper, then I'm like, well, how come I can't have screen sets for when I do like I don't know, for when I do I need to have like OBS open and I need to have Google Chrome open and resized kind of small so I can see the chat, and then I need to have and I need to rearrange this stuff every time. So it would be cool to have screen sets.
So the way to do that, if you have Linux, then you install a desktop manager that is customizable like that. There are plenty that you can choose from. But in macOS, you cannot really replace the user interface like that. So what you can do, I guess we are switching to this view, right? So what you can do in macOS is you can use Hammerspawn. I can show you. I think there is even a facility here for doing the whole thing. You can just, but I forget the name. I think it's at the bottom of the documentation. Win-win, maybe that one. Window grid. I think that's that one. In any case, you would have to look up the documentation, but what you can do with Hammerspawn very easily is just reposition windows like this. Oh, I don't hear you, Arya. Are you sure that you're giving me audio? Because it could be on my side. I just switched stuff in OBS. No, I still don't hear you. Let me see. Let me try to figure this out real quick. As usual in a stream about streams, we have to figure things out. So let's see. Your source is here, and then it has control audio via OBS, all right. And in the advanced audio properties, this looks good. And I don't even have meters for you here. So in Video Ninja on your browser, do you see your microphone bouncing when you speak? Because if you do, then it's on my side. If you don't, then it's on your side.
Do you have me now?
I have you on the left ear only, which is weird.
Yes, on my side. I think my black hole again just stopped working. It was okay, that's it from me. So now you don't hear me, or now you do hear me?
No, now it's perfect.
No?
Now,
Okay, cool. So
yeah.
I just needed to set it again.
Okay, and yeah, on the chat,
Hammer
people...
Spoon I gotta get into, because when you talk, like I'm like, yeah, like this is what I need to really get good at, but it looks really hard.
Yeah, so people on the chat, Christian, hello. Christian says, awesome window manager on Arch Linux. So yeah, I have been there. Awesome Window Manager is a window manager that allows you to do all these sorts of customizations, and Arch Linux is a flavor of Linux that is very bare bones. When you install it, all you have is the command line. So you must choose which window manager to use. You must choose what logging manager to use and everything. It is a lot of fun to learn about how Linux really works. And these days, if I have to go to the command line on any server or do anything on Linux, I am like, no big deal, because I spent 5 years doing that. And yeah. And what you can do in Hammer Spoon very easily is manipulating windows this way that I showed. I'm not using Hammer Spoon for that, I should say. I'm using something called Rectangle app, but you can.
Okay.
You can use Hammer Spoon for that. You can just get a hold of windows. You can even open apps, get a hold of the windows that they generate, and put windows in particular locations. I used to do that way back on my channel when I was doing some live coding. I put my window with the oscilloscope right below my face on the corner. And I was doing that with Hammer Spoon and custom scripts. And it's written in Lua, so you already know Lua.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know Lua, but yeah, I know of Lua. I've heard of Lua.
Right. So next, I want to talk about what is your favorite little feature in Reaper that no one knows about. Or maybe even a script that no one knows about.
There's so many. Okay, let me think about this for a second. It's probably something by MPL. I think MPL is really next level stuff. This is such a good question. You know, there's so many, like even the one that I showed earlier, track selection follows item selection by Lokasana. It's great. I mean, so many things by Lokasana. I should have a more interesting answer than this, because I'm like, oh well, there are so many. But what's one that I'm like, oh yeah, this is the stuff.
While you're thinking, can I share mine? And I talked about this yesterday with you, but I didn't talk about it on the stream. And I really want to do that because it's not a script. It is not an extension. It's not SWS. It's just plain Reaper. And I didn't know about this until, I guess, yesterday. I learned about it diving in the menus, and I freaking love this feature. You can have an empty MIDI item, and then check this out. You can edit the MIDI right in here. You don't have to go into that whole window. And what I like about this is that this is synced with my timeline. So right here, I have a different timeline that I can scroll, and sometimes that can be useful. But here, it is right on the timeline. So if I have more tracks with more items, it is very easy for me to just make sure that my bass is in sync with the kick drum, because this is going to be my bass, and over here I'll have a kick drum. And I can edit all of this together, maybe like this. So here is my kick drum, and then I am writing my bass, and it's right next to the other thing, and I know that I can see all these things together over here in the MIDI editor if I enable this, and I visualize all of them. But I mean, everything on the timeline.
You could sync your timeline with the MIDI editor window, by the way.
I know that you can sync the grid, but I didn't know that you could sync the timeline.
Sync them. So right now for me, they are synced. Yeah. And that action, I think, is in the MIDI editor section, not in the main section. So in your action list, you go to the MIDI editor and you go sync. Is it what it is? Yeah, sync to arrange. Yeah, time-based sync to arrange view is what you need. And then, yeah, you can scroll and change the grid and change the zoom, and all of that changes in both of them together.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, that gets me closer to what I like doing. The way that I like reasoning about this. By the way, this timeline looks a lot better than this one with all this junk. How can I know how I can get rid of the junk below, but how can I get rid of the junk above?
You mean like 0.1, 0.00 thing?
Yeah. I can only see measures and beats. There is no way to see just measures.
Yeah, you don't have absolute measures. Yeah. There you go. And this is one of those things, correct me if I'm wrong, Leandro, but I think this is like one of the things you can't script. You have no control over what's in the ruler, right?
Maybe you have control over...
what about measures beats minimal? Measure beats minimal is what you want, actually. Right click on your ruler.
That is what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so much better. I wonder why that's not the default. It's so much better.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I kind of like that more too. Because, I mean, we know it's 0.1, 0.00, right? It's just kind of clutters your eyes and you're like, 24.1.0. What? Yeah.
I am like that with everything. Oh no, software.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that is... John is here. Hello.
Hello, John.
Yeah, make sure that you join us on the newly created Reaper Streamers Discord. Just posted the link here.
Leandro went rogue on us. John, do you believe this guy?
Why do you say that?
No, because there's already a Discord. No, I'm joking.
But
no, yours is different than the community one.
Yeah, I don't want to clutter someone else's channel with like, what are we going to do on the stream on Monday? But it would be nice for us, our small club here, to talk about it, and we have our guests there as well. Justin, who created ReEQ, is there. So yeah, can be
John, when you say I might switch to, do you mean you're switching to Linux or something, or switch?
I think he was talking about the timeline.
Oh, okay.
That's when the message came in. So yeah, by far my favorite Reaper feature, at least today, if you ask me, is the fact that you can edit MIDI inline. And I also think that this feature is unique to Reaper. I haven't seen this anywhere else.
Well, Pro Tools MIDI editor is actually kind of just on the timeline, I think. So it looks very similar to what a MIDI track looks like in the old Pro Tools. Yeah, I think in Pro Tools you don't have a MIDI editor dedicated window, which is also dumb if you ask me.
Yeah, I think I like having options, but I think that I'm probably going to default to the inline one. And John is asking to add to your voice. Okay, so this is the call output. The call output is just aria. So if I come here, there is already a delay of 150, so I guess 550. Okay, let's see if that is better. Let me know, John.
Hello, how are you? Won't you tell me your name?
The weird thing is that I measure the delay and everything, but every time we connect, the delay is slightly different. And it is difficult.
I think not only that, but when I look at the OBS Ninja window, it seems like in different moments it's sending different amounts of kilobits per second to you. So would the delay also change as the stream progresses?
Yes, but not for the same reason. The thing that you are talking about is just how much data we can send between our computers, and latency has to do with how fast the data is going to get there or how slow. And these things are correlated but are not determined by the same factors. For instance, you might find a path between Canada and Europe that goes through Australia that for whatever reason gives us a higher bandwidth, but it goes to Australia, so it's going to take longer to get here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mentioned my favorite Reaper feature as of right now. What is your favorite little nugget that is hidden?
I should really have a good answer for this. I think, okay, I'll go with resources. SWS resources. Especially because when it comes to video editing, I feel like without resources, I wouldn't have a workflow that I would be fast at. I wouldn't have a workflow that's like faster than DaVinci and stuff for me. Because using resources, I can like import images into Reaper. So what I do is like I'm editing images in GIMP. I export it and then double click in Reaper and it's in there. So I'll go with resources, and there's tons of like extra kind of like benefits.
What are resources?
To using it. Do you have SWS, right? Do you want to go switch to my screen, or do you want to just go on your screen?
I can do it here.
Let's go to my screen. Because it takes a while to set up for it to be something coherent. So let me just show you my screen. It's fun.
Okay.
So one thing you can do with resources, let me just bring in like a thing here. Say I want to declick a sound, right? So on my resources, I can import some effects chains, and then you get an action that's related to these effects chains. So I get an action to put this effects chain on this item or on this track. And I can say like, yeah, so I can choose this track and go double click here. And now an effects chain which contains my declick with the settings that I like is on this track. But that's still lame because I could also right click and put it on here. But what I can do is I can, and I changed my mouse modifiers recently. I can select items and time, hit a hotkey. My track is now declicked and reglued and crossfaded already on here. So you can create custom actions that utilize like an effects chain. Same thing with track templates. So how do I use that? Yeah, so if I want to put a MIDI track on, I can hit a hotkey and a MIDI track comes in that's already auto-armed for when selected. My MIDI inputs are already assigned here. My favorite latch replace overdub is selected. And even like a fast loading VSTI is loaded on that. So when I want to like find out, oh, what's that like snare tone I'm hearing? Like, ooh, to, I can just quickly import this into any project. Same thing for my like recording track. Hit a hotkey. I did something where this doesn't work, or my hard drive died, so this doesn't work temporarily. But things like that. Or if I want to bring retrospective record into a project that I made a long time ago, there it is. And then with like images and stuff, or with media files and stuff, it's really nice because like, yes, you have Media Explorer, but I have a thing where it's called like image insert tutorial. I double click here. Why is it not finding that one? That's interesting. Something's up there. Oh, okay. I remember what's wrong with it, because in my video editor, I have that set up. But in my video editor, I can export something out of GIMP and then instantly bring it into my Reaper project. And then I can have video processor put on it, and I can have an automation item loaded under the edit cursor. So then quickly I have like an image that comes into screen and goes away. And you can switch themes with one click, but that's kind of silly. I have some of this stuff is missing. Like I had my IRs as separate audio files that you can bring in, things like that. For media items, I have like 2 pops. Again, all of this is on my hard drive that died recently, so right now they don't work. I gotta reinsert the paths once I re-import them from my hard drive. But yeah, I think resources is a thing that I don't know how many people know about it and how many people don't, but it was one of these things where I first found it and I was like, well, what's the point? I can right click and insert a track template, or I can right click inside any effects window and insert an effects chain. But now I can put it in a custom action.
You don't even have to go into the effects window. You can right click on the effects little button there.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the effects browser and drag VSTI into a track, and it's going to do many things that you mentioned. Like it's going to arm it for recording, it's going to add MIDI input and all of that.
But does it do this?
And
is it light blue?
So that's another thing that I want to talk about. I want to share the way that I am using colors right now, and I think that you probably have a better way of doing it. And I even have an idea for a script that I don't think exists. So before I talk about all of that, so this Discord thing that I am sharing with people, do you think that instead we could just have a channel in this other Discord server? Do you think that the owners of this other server would be okay with that? Because if we could, then it would be nice to just have one Discord server. Aria, did you do the thing that you did before? When you switch back to your camera, your audio doesn't work anymore. So it has to do with that. Maybe some keyboard shortcut that you're using to switch back to your camera.
How about now?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Cool. Okay. So I have to just select the same thing again. Weird. The owner of the Discord server that I was talking about is here. It's Mike from Let's Talk About Reaper.
Oh, and by the way,
I'm pretty sure Mike will let you do that. Yeah.
Okay. So Mike, if you want to have a channel to talk about things like this, like when we are going to stream, what we are going to stream about, and then guests can be there as well. If you were okay with me having a channel in your Discord server to talk about that, I would like that, because I prefer to have most resources in one place. But otherwise, I can have my own separate server with my own separate little group. It's up to you. I don't want to clutter someone else's server. But let me know. Let me know if you're interested in hosting us in your server. And yeah, some praise for the resources in SWS. This is actually new to me, so interesting. I am working my way through the menus, and extensions is last. So I will get into SWS in the future, and I'm even watching all Kenny.js videos about all the features to really learn what they do. But let's talk about colors real quick. So here's, as you probably know, I was not using colors all that much because I thought it was annoying to have to right-click and then go blah, blah, blah. So I came up with this strategy. I assigned a shortcut to assign one random color to a track. So if I have multiple tracks, I can easily assign random colors. But the thing is, I want the children to have the same color. So if I create more tracks, then I have another shortcut for, I think it's a script. I don't think that this one is native. It's
ICU one, that one?
It is set color of selected tracks from their parent tracks. So I have to select the tracks and then do that. But now that I have this in place, when I create new tracks under the parent, it's going to inherit the color because I am using this other action called insert new track inherit color from parent. But this is still not great. What I would like is an action that I don't think exists. What I think I would like is when I'm at the top level, if I create a new track, it creates a new random color. So I don't have to come here and change the color. And if I put a track as a child of another track, it immediately inherits the color of the parent, unless I tell it otherwise. So that's as far as I went. But I know that you do colors in probably a smarter way.
I also have a hotkey like you that changes selected tracks to random color. When it comes to children stuff, so obviously you can make a custom action which is like set the track to be children and then set it to the same color, but you want to do it so that when you do it with a mouse, when you drag with a mouse under a new track, that it automatically... So you need a script that's running and checking, right?
I think that would be ideal, yes. Again, I'm coming back to the workflow that exists in Ableton Live, I think, where if you have a group, they don't call it folders or parents, but if you have a group, the colors inherit automatically unless you tell it otherwise.
There's another script I use which is cool. It's set color gradients to children tracks starting from parent color. So they're not exactly the same color, but they are like gradients. They're kind of nice and fancy. But I see what you mean. So like essentially a preference that it's like if a track is the child of another track and no color is assigned to said track, get it from the parent.
Yeah.
There is a thing. Let's see if that is a thing still. Options. No, never mind.
Yeah, I guess my issue is the color model in Reaper, because the model, as far as I understand, is tracks have colors. Items inherit the color from the track unless you tell it otherwise, unless you assign a specific color to that item. And then takes inherit the color from the item unless you tell it otherwise. Can I upload this? Yes. So, I didn't press the right button. But if you have multiple takes, they are going to have the color of the item unless you tell them to have a specific color. So it's tracks, items inherit, takes inherit. But I think I would like to have tracks and children tracks inherit as well.
Gotcha. There's also an action by Mordy, I think, that is... But it's also not what you want. It's insert a new track and inherit the color. But you want to maybe sometimes insert a track, then make it a child, and then it becomes...
But I guess ideally we would have...
So you should script it.
Yeah, I guess ideally the script would be the thing that you explained. It's a script that keeps running on the background. And when the tracks change, the organization of tracks change, the script is going to look at track colors and it's going to see, so this track is a child. I'm going to color it because sometimes I will have situations where I have something like this. So this one is a
yeah,
parent.
John, that thing that you were saying is what I was looking for, but I didn't see it. The set color to parent. That's exactly what I was looking for, but I didn't find it. Set color to parent in SWS auto color. Yeah, has that been removed, or where is that? Is that somewhere that I'm not seeing?
Oh, it has been solved 12 years ago. Great. I am just getting into using colors in Reaper. My projects were all gray before.
But I don't see it anymore.
And as far as I understood by reading very briefly the SWS website, the auto color was just based on the names, but it seems to be more sophisticated.
It can be based on the names of tracks, regions, or markers.
Ah, okay.
I don't see what you're talking about though, John, anymore. I know I saw it like once, but I no longer see it.
And I don't even know where to find
Rule
the
type, track filter, children. Ah, okay. Ah, gotcha.
auto color. Add rule.
Yeah, you add a filter. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, gotcha.
The rule
you
is for
go-
tracks, and the color is probably random. And then apply.
Oh, you have it open. Why am I looking on mine? Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, I'm going to assign a color to the parent, and I'm going to drop some tracks in there, and they don't inherit, so I don't know how to set this up.
So yeah, make I guess give one a color, and yeah.
Oh, do I need to select them and then apply? Oh, no, it's just applying random colors.
I mean, if you do force, that'll work right now, I think. That didn't. Oh, because you made color random. Do you have to make color same or inherit?
Oh, parent.
Parent. There you go.
So make the parent a color, drop them in there, and then I guess I have to click here on apply. Is there a way for me to automatically apply this rule? Probably.
I think it should work once it's set up. Shablongs. You go force, that works, but that's still not. Still don't want to.
Oh.
We don't want to have to force.
There is options, enable auto track icon, layout, auto track coloring, force. And then, I don't know, let's just close the project.
Oh, enable auto track coloring. I think that's
Oh, there you go.
Is. I have that on all the time, but I still have to force sometimes. I don't know what up with that.
But let's see if this completes the quest for me. So if I drop the children there, they auto-color. Great, that's exactly what I wanted. But if I have another group here and I color this one differently, then it is not doing the right thing.
Well, in that case, I always just select all of them and set the color to random there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
If you want to get really fancy, you can make a mouse modifier for the track control panel so that if you command and double click on a track, it selects the track and its children, and then you do a shibloinksy bloinks there. I honestly don't make too many groups because I made my groups with project templates, but you don't like project templates, so this is probably good for you.
I see. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, thanks for the support. Thanks for teaching me this on the fly. All right.
How come my chat is not updating? Something weird is happening with my chat.
This is very cool. And if I change the color of the parent, yeah, then I have to reapply it to the children. Cool stuff. Right, so Arya, we have recorded audio before in the stream several times. And if you record audio, they show up as takes. And you mentioned that your relationship with takes is not a very close one. I don't think that you use takes all that much, but I wanted to talk about takes and even comps. If you use them in any circumstance, and how and why or why not.
No, I do use them. I use them when I record. I guess how to put this. I think some people like do 30 takes whenever they record any line of guitar, and then they keep all the 30 takes until the last moment when they are printing the mix. And I'm like not from any technical standpoint, but from a human brain standpoint, I'm like, commit to something, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? So that's my issue with it. It's like, yo, like, I understand we can keep everything till the last moment and we never need to lose anything and we can save all of it and we can always access the first time that I picked my guitar in 1971. But like, why? Just get rid of some shit and like live your life, move on with your life. Because yeah, like, I think this like thing that does give us, which is we never have to commit to anything, makes it that people don't finish their projects. And it's like, finish your project, like do 4 takes. If they're bad, delete them. If they're good, comp them up, commit to your comp and move on. Like, I promise you that you won't need in the mixing stage to be like, now that one note, if I had my 31st take of that, now I got a hit on my hands. But now that I'm using the 27th take, this song is gonna flop, right? Like, those are not the real decisions. So I guess that's my issue. But yeah, I do record takes when I do my when I'm recording music, and I also use takes if I have, say I got. So there's a really cool way of using takes, which Kenny Gioia, I learned from Kenny Gioia, is you get like 4 angles of a video and you put them in takes. Then you just cut and choose the take. So that's a really cool way of doing it. I use takes for my reference tracks, for example. So I have one track in my project that's called the reference track. I have icons on my toolbar to solo and mute it. So even if the track is no longer in my view, or I'm zoomed in on like my drum section, I can still mute and solo it. And then on that track, I have my reference tracks as takes. So I can, at any given moment, be like, oh, this is what the Radiohead track sounds like. This is Mars Volta. This is King Crimson. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I guess the only thing that I like get annoyed with takes is like, if it's 30, it's too many. 4, 5, 6, that's it. 6 takes. That's my limit. And then otherwise, I'm either deleting some stuff or I'm committing to some things. Yeah, when it's like 30 takes, that like really bothers me to look at. And it's like, do you even know what's going on? Like, people who use 30 takes.
One thing that I was playing around with this, okay? So I learned that if I enable this for recording and I start recording and then I go back to the beginning and record again, this is supposed to create a take, and it does. So if I am creating a comp, I'm probably going to split this. For instance, oh man, I changed my keyboard shortcuts here recently, so things are messy. So I'm probably going to need to do some of this, right?
For doing what? Sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
I'm probably going to need to move things around like this, right?
Mm-hmm. To do what?
To come up with a comp. I probably want to change the timing of stuff to come up with a comp. But then, in order to be able to do that, I had to split the items. So there's now kind of a crossfade here. So if I wanted to do something like this, then I would need to create I guess a crossfade here. So kind of gets too messy. So here's what I came up with. I think that I have 2 modes of operation, and I even put them here on the menu. The first mode of operation is like I am tracking a guitar. I will do 4 takes of the whole song, and then I will comp, and then I will freaking commit, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm going to do editing.
Yeah.
I'm going to commit to the edit. I'm going to do some mixing. I will commit to the mix. I will do some mastering, and it's even funny for me to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm learning. So if I am doing mastering, I will commit to the mix. I think that makes a lot of sense. But there's a second workflow here, which is sometimes I am recording, and I'm recording like a bass line. And then I make a mistake. Okay, so I know what I want to do. I don't need to do the whole song 3 times. I'm just sort of even sometimes making up the thing as I go. So I can switch to this other mode in which I am going to do a pre-roll of 2 bars. And I'm going to listen to this. It is going to show me that. And then it's just going to continue recording from that. And it's not going to create takes. So those are the 2 workflows that I came up with. Do you have something similar? Do you have better ways of doing this?
No, your way sounds pretty cool. Yeah, like that's again one of those things where like the Pro Tools way of doing stuff, I've done for years and years and years. So I just kind of keep doing that. But your way is cool. And the Pro Tools way of doing that is that you have a record track and you have an arrange track. So I do a take, then I need to start from that moment. I drag my take up, keep recording on the record track while monitoring the arrange track. But your way is completely valid and pretty cool. When it comes to takes, I just noticed that you record a take, then you go back to the beginning, record another take. Mine is set so my edit cursor stays in the same place when I hit space after a recording take is done. So then hitting R again will go to take again, but that's a minor tweak.
Yeah, that's actually a video that I had way back in the channel. I really cannot understand how people get their heads around that. And it's the default in Reaper, so it seems like many people like it. But really, it makes zero sense to me that when I stop a timeline, it's going to revert to where I started it. I mean, if you go to any video player, YouTube, VLC, anything, you press stop and it stops where you are. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Recording is different. The recording is different from playback in that, say I recorded 4 measures and I stopped the recording, very probably the first thing I want to do is listen to the 4 measures I just recorded, right? And on the other hand, also when it comes to like edits, like when I'm doing sound design for film, I put a sound effect and then I go back a few frames and I want to watch it. So I watch it one time here if like the gunshot is synced audio and video wise, and then I want to hear it again, you know? So
yeah,
it makes sense to me.
It does make sense. I don't work like that. I would, for instance, do maybe a voiceover. I am recording and I'm not listening back. I will listen back at the end to edit, but I am monitoring what I am. I'm monitoring for pops and clicks and that sort of thing while I'm recording, but I want to get out of the booth as soon as possible.
Continue.
I don't have a booth, but still, I want to get out of the microphone as soon as possible. So that makes more sense to me. And another thing that I had on my channel way back is a different workflow for the video editing thing with takes that you mentioned. The problem with that approach is that you don't get to see all 4. Let's say that you have 4 cameras. You don't get to see all 4 cameras at the same time on your screen, which is something that you could, for instance, in DaVinci or Final Cut or any Premiere, any kind of nonlinear video editor, you can see all the cameras, all the angles, and then you can just click around.
Yeah.
And you can switch to different cameras. And I find that helpful. So I created a video processor to do that. And it shows you a window with the preview of all your takes or all your camera angles. And then you can use keyboard shortcuts to switch between them. And now recently I watched John's video on his video production in Reaper course, and I learned a cool feature that I didn't know about, which is in the video editor or the video preview, you can right click and you can send MIDI CC to, so when you're dragging around here, it sends MIDI CC to the video processor. So you can play with the sliders using that. So I guess someday I'm going to go back to that video processor and I'm going to allow you to just, I don't think you can click, right? You have to drag, but you could just ever so slightly just drag a little bit and it's going to send a MIDI CC and then I can get that and I can do the right thing and switch the camera. Right now you have to use the keyboard. But yeah, I thought I would mention that because it is kind of a cool little hack that I made up.
Oh, cool. John says he's solved the multi-camera problem. Never made a video for. Yeah, that could be cool. I've always had one camera, but now that I'm doing this news show and now I'm editing videos for them, I would love some multi-camera problem salvage for sure.
Yeah, so John is saying for voiceover, just don't stop. But what if I am doing the voiceover and I am going to do minimal editing on the thing, or maybe I want it to be sort of in sync with what is happening on the screen, you know? I find it helpful to sort of have a timeline there.
Bo brings up a cool point as well, which is, I think it's shift and space by default. So if you press shift and space, the cursor does end up where you ended. But that's a workflow I can't get used to because space, starting and stopping things, it's so ingrained in my muscle memory that it's ridiculous. Every single program in the history of time from the beginning, you press space to start, stop. Now I gotta remember to add a modifier to it in certain situations. I have learned, I've set Command Option and space to stop, delete all recorded media. That's in my muscle memory because I fuck up so often. But otherwise, I never got used to like, oh yeah, if I do want the playhead to be there, I just go shift space.
Another thing that I do have is in case I know that I'm going to do something difficult that I will have to re-record 1,000 times, which is most cases when I'm recording, I do have something that if I have a selection like this, then I can play from the playhead as one normally would, but I can also play from the beginning of the time selection. So if I know that I'm doing something that I'm going to do 1,000 times, I do a time selection and then I play from there every time. But still, when I stop, it stops. That's what stop means. And I know that there is a pause button, but that's different. It breaks some things. I forget what things. I don't really remember what. I guess it doesn't flush some JS effects or something. So pause is not exactly your friend.
But that's interesting that you want the cursor to be where you stop. I think John also feels like me. Like, I feel like if I have to go back to the beginning, like, come on, what, we got to do everything around here? That's the feeling that I get.
Yeah. I guess that's another conversation that we can have. So John is mentioning, I suppose, a custom action, right?
Yeah.
And I have a script to do exactly the same thing.
Well, you distribute scripts. So that's where scripts become really handy. Custom actions is like, it's a thing. It gets the job done. You're done.
Yeah. You know? So I guess my general point is I don't use custom actions. I don't use cycle actions. But I'm going to give you my reasoning and let's see if you have a better idea or a better approach. The reason is, first, I sometimes want to share my scripts. I guess I shared all my scripts so far, but also it is easier to, it's a file in the file system. It's not just a keyboard shortcut that lives deep in the Reaper configuration, kind of hidden, difficult to understand, difficult to change, unless, of course, you're using the graphical user interface. So it feels to me like custom actions and even cycle actions are kind of shortcuts or helpers for people who may not necessarily want to dive into Lua. But it feels to me like once you got into Lua, there isn't really much of a point. It's not easier to go into the new action a new custom action, it's not easier to come here than to just go to rescript and start writing a quick, small little script. I mean, look at the code for the script that I just mentioned on the chat. It is just 2 lines. So
yeah. Yeah, and this is essentially a custom action, right? You're calling 2 different actions to do the thing you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I would argue that for you, the ID is easier. Just like simply like copying command IDs and stuff, you can make a mistake. And then one thing I learned with if you're using custom actions or if you're assembling a script that has SWS actions, you can't just put the ID there. You have to use this function that looks up the ID of the command, because that's different from person to person. So yeah, if you have SWS action, yeah, you have to use, what is it called?
Name
command lookup. Yeah. So I mean, I didn't know that, so I distributed like tens of actions on my website until somebody told me, hey man, you're an idiot and none of your custom actions work for the people you distributed to. So like, I think custom actions are kind of idiot proof. And yeah, like for my brain, like custom actions feel easier. And then cycle actions. So if you can, I'm sure you can script cycle actions, but I don't know how to do that. Create a cycle.
You can store state in the script. I mean, the point of a cycle action is the easy kind of cycle action is just with separators. So you run the action, it stops at a certain point, and then it stops on the next point. But then it gets a little bit into the programming territory, because some of the actions or some of the commands are like if then else cases. And at that point, you're really writing a program in a spreadsheet, it feels to me. So I get the idea. I'm not saying that SWS is a bad thing. And I love cycle actions because it brings the power of programming to everyone. And I find that amazing. But
yeah,
I feel like once you learn Lua, cycle actions and custom actions kind of become obsolete. Or at least that happened for me.
I mean,
and in terms of how you would do this,
I think it's for you.
Maybe.
Like for me, even like I would call myself still like lower intermediate. I still find making a custom action like faster and easier to test and tweak. Just for the simple fact that if I realize, oh, like the third action in my custom action needs to be the second action, that's a drag, Command X, go up, Command V, Command S in the script, and in a custom action, it's drag it up. You know what I mean? So like when I'm conceptualizing stuff and things like that, like it just has an interface, right? So it's user friendlier for people who aren't scripters. But yeah, I mean, you're next level. So for you get also more control, right? Like what if you want, because you can also, and I've already been doing this as well, so you definitely do this, where I have the makings of a custom action in my script, but then I can also quickly script a little thing, like use one function, or say do this for items in item selection index or whatever. So it's good to have both, but yeah, like no, that's just you, buddy. You're just good at Lua.
and the way that you do it in Lua is if you want to do a cycle action that is going to run a bunch of things and then stop, run a bunch of things and then stop. I think there may be other ways of doing that, but and if you just want it to toggle, if it's the simplest thing, it's just toggling. I think there is a way in Lua, but I forget how to do that, to just have that kind of state. But in Lua, you can write any kind of state, either to the project or to Reaper in general. And then you can just store the state where you are.
I have an idea for this. Is this possible? I think I told you this idea before, and there may be an easier way of doing this. But say you use FabFilter stuff, okay? Yeah. Like no, that's just it. Say you use FabFilter stuff, right? And the FabFilter stuff have this oversampling thing that increase your CPU usage. but make things sound less whatever, right? So it's an action or a script that basically finds like the word oversampling or oversample in every single effects and turns it on. And then you run the action again, it turns it off. So you can have it like off while you do your mix. And then at the very last stage when you're rendering, you hit the script, it turns oversampling on every plugin that has it, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, so depending on the plugin, that feature exists. Like, I think in Nova, I think there is a way to do that. Set quality for all instances.
Cool.
So it seems like FabFilter doesn't have that, right?
Not to my knowledge, and this was actually a request from one of the people who watches my channel, who uses Analog Obsession, and I don't have Analog Obsession myself, so I don't know if they have this feature, but I'm assuming he did his homework and knows that that's not possible.
Probably
it could
not,
be cool,
yeah.
and it could be cool for other things as well, like I don't know, like look ahead stuff, right? Like one master look ahead control, stuff like that.
Yeah, I find that first of all, I don't think that exists. Second, I think that would either have to hard code all the plugins that this script would support, because the trick is you have to find the right setting here, right? And I'm not sure about this because I haven't done it, but I do think that there is a way for you to get a hold of these parameters in Lua and tweak them. I think that that's how they do scripts that like...
I want to grab it by name, basically. Like the name goes over samp so that it gets oversample and oversampling, whatever the plugin calls it, and just turns them all, selects all of them, turns them all off.
So you can, and then you can try to do like quality, because on the TDR Nova it's called quality, and this is see, it's called quality, and the settings are not called on and off.
Precise,
it's called
and
echo and precise minus. So you can do it for a range of plugins. You can look at FabFilter, TDR Nova, you can look at the Analog Obsession plugins and so forth, but it's always going to be a hit and miss kind of thing. And there will be some plugin that has an oversampling thing that is, it has oversample in the name, but it's not really oversampling. It's something else that you shouldn't be touching. And then you're going to have to hard code that special case as well. So it is kind of complicated. I personally don't think it would be worth it, because I would be afraid of running that script, because, I mean, can you at least tell me what are all the settings you changed, and maybe confirm with me if I want to change those settings? You know what I mean? That's complicated.
Well, can we not hard code that so that it says on the console?
Yeah, I mean, you could. You could even ask the user.
Hello, Roshan. How you doing? He says also there's another issue, which is like they're not audio parameters to be controlled by the DAW. So it's a VST inner VST thing. Roshan is a programmer buddy of mine who is a genius. Hi. And we went to film school together.
Hello. Right. Okay. So yeah, that idea of controlling multiple plugins comes up.
It's risky for sure.
Comes up often, actually. Someone asked me if there was a way for you to copy EQ parameters from a plugin and paste into another, like copy from ReEQ and paste into Q3. How?
Oh, geez. Oh, no, that's crazy. I thought you meant from ReEQ to ReEQ. I'm like, well, that's easy.
Yeah, no. And not even that, I don't think I know how to do that. For instance, here, if I have another TDR Nova, how do I copy from one to the other?
Natively in Reaper. That's a great question. Well, why don't you just copy the plugin?
Yeah, no. So let's say that I have here some bands and there other bands, and I want to copy these bands from here to there. That's what the person wanted to do.
Oh, you want to merge them. Like you want to merge two EQ settings.
Yeah. I don't think there is a way to do that, because it is very plugin dependent.
You can do it with like... you can do it with like automation items, and then in the new track you say right to end or something. But like, why do that when you can use your hands and face and brain?
Yeah.
Like, some people want to automate certain things that I'm like, it's definitely easier to just do it. People are like, oh, I want it so automatically if I'm thinking about recording drums, the metronome turns off. And if I think about recording guitars, it turns on. It's like, well, are you high? Like, come on. Like, just do the damn thing.
And I guess that is the gist of this whole conversation. We can spend hours and days watching all the video tutorials and customizing everything, and that's never a replacement for making music, recording a video. Yeah. Just go ahead and do it. Do it the silly way, the slow way. Just do it. Don't be like me.
Well, one of the moments in my live streams that I was really, really chuffed with myself was I was like editing guitars like one by one, beat by beat, and then somebody was like, oh, well, why don't you make stretch markers at transients and then run this action? And it's like, it's definitely gonna sound like shit, and it's definitely gonna make mistakes, and I still have to run through the same lines, see where it made a mistake, fix the mistake. So I did a time comparison, and I won doing it manually versus using the action. And I was like, aha, I should actually edit that into a 1-minute video to use as a bragging rights thing. Yeah, like, just do things, people. Like, you don't need to automate everything. Like, can I automatically? No, just do it.
Right. Okay. So let's briefly... This is one of my favorites and least favorite things about Reaper, and I guess most people feel the same. Everything is customizable, but then I have to customize everything. I'm sort of given a bunch of Lego pieces, and they say, okay, now build a doll for you. And I love that I can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would be using Ableton, right? I could load Ableton and be on my merry way. Mm-hmm. But I do like the possibility of customizing many things. So what are, from these things here, did you go over everything that is in here, or did you just...
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like, not in one session, but over time, I think I've gone over everything that's in there. I'd not be shocked if I found some, like, until I got a new monitor, I never went to general advanced UI tweaks. Very top page. And then advanced. Yeah, I never went in there until I got a new screen, because now I scale my UI elements by 1.35, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I know what's where, and I can search through and find my way around the prefs. And I've definitely changed a lot, and mostly changed, like, I would say 90% of mouse modifiers.
Yeah, I'm deep into that rabbit hole myself right now. That's why I'm kind of fumbling around. I don't fully committed to memory, everything. So there is one here that I can mention that I thought was interesting. This show splash screen on startup. It might be just placebo, but it feels like it's faster without it. Because when you are loading Reaper, it's going to play that animation of the Reaper logo.
Yeah.
And I think that without the splash screen, so without that animation, I think that I'm loading Reaper faster.
It's possible.
Isn't that fun? I thought that was kind of amusing. And so, okay, mouse modifiers. You changed most of them. I am in the middle of changing them myself right now. So I'm kind of coming up with kind of a scheme of things. And I'm going to talk about what exactly I am doing, and I want to hear what you do with your mouse modifier. So the thing that bugs me about the use of the mouse in Reaper is that by default, it's mostly time-based, but I don't think like that. I think in terms of items. So I changed so that without modifiers, I'm selecting items. And with simple modifiers like command, I'm going to add items to my selection. And you can see that the cursor is just sitting still, not doing anything. I actually need a modifier to change my cursor. Or I can drag it from here. But my cursor is now the thing that I have to do some effort to move around, which makes more sense to me. And then I am trying to have some uniformity over things like if I press one key to add an item here, I better press the same key to add an automation item there. That sort of thing. And I'm finding that the best
And do
key...
you use command for that, or what do you do for that?
I am finding that the best key to do that is Option, because Option is also the key that you use to delete stuff. So if you have like items here, you use Option by default to delete the thing. So it makes sense if you are going to create something with Option, it makes sense to delete. Sorry, if you are going to delete, it makes sense to create that thing with Option as well. So right now I'm creating items with Option. But yeah, what is your strategy and your reasoning about this?
Some of it, I got used to the Reaper way of doing it. So right drag to marquee select, I like that now. Then when I go to another DAW, it takes a bit for me to retrain my brain that I left drag to marquee select. But that's not too big of a deal for me, because I'm like, if I'm editing, like I'm doing Reaper 100% of the time, zero exceptions. But yeah, like for me, like duplicating stuff with command didn't make sense. I made that Option. So I duplicate everything with Option. If I add shift to anything, that is to remove snap. I also have just begun working with a workflow where I'm always in ripple editing disabled mode. Then I have a mouse modifier to go to ripple editing per track mode once I click and drag some stuff. And then I have another mouse modifiers where I'm temporarily in ripple edit all mode. So that's been working out pretty well for me. And I have also ripple delete and space delete and stuff like that. But other than that, there's just a lot of things also that there's no modifier for at all. And then if you add it, suddenly you got a modifier for it. Like a lot in the MIDI editor, there's zero modifiers in them. Like arpeggiate notes. I think it's cool. You write a chord, you select them, you drag the thing. Now you got an arpeggiation of the thing. Oh, hello, Tormi. How you doing? Good to see you.
Hello, everyone who joined since the last time I said hello. It's great to have you here. And one thing that I always do is I am not necessarily answering to everything in here, but I always go over everything that was said after the stream. Just don't want to read over everything in the stream. But yeah, I hear you all.
This was Swedish for a while. The Swedes took over.
Yeah, I guess I will drop it on Google Translate and hope for the best in that case. Speaking of editing, Razor edits. Oh, by the way, one thing that you mentioned is that you are trying to not use repo editing. And I find that I always enable repo editing and then I'm going to do something and I'm like, oh, yeah, repo editing is on. So one thing that I had for the longest time is this action that I developed called repo delete. And most of the time when I'm repo editing, I want to delete stuff.
I just have a custom action for that again. Same result.
Yeah, so it is pretty much a custom action and it removes the contents of time selection moving later items. So I can select an item and delete and it repulls, or I can select a region in time and it deletes. But yeah, I tend to not use repo editing, though I do repo editing.
Yeah, same. Like, because when you drag things in, you're like, oh, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Or I still do like Command X, Command Ving a lot, and then you can do Shift V to insert time. So many functions of ripple editing, there's like other ways of using it. And then whenever I space out and do a ripple editing thing, then it's like, fuck. So I'm experimenting with this mouse modifier workflow. So far, so good. And if I need to like delete a bunch of chunks out of something, well, in that case, I'll set to ripple editing real quick. But yeah, now I'm trying to be in disabled ripple editing like 90% of the time, and then just use custom actions to joints it up.
Yeah, but I was going to mention something else that I think is fairly recent, which is razor editing. Do you use that?
Razor. Not yet, not really. The only time I use it is I sometimes speed up my videos if I mumble through a passage that's otherwise word-wise perfect. And if I've already made chops to it, you can't change the rate of them. Like if you use the option and drag on the left to change the rates, the rate of each individual item changes. But if you make a razor edit, you can change the rate of the razor edit and it will preserve the edit, but it would speed up and slow down every item within proportionally. Because in the other way, the shorter items get rated more insanely.
You can see that on the screen right now. I'm showing the thing that you were describing. So if I just select multiple items and squeeze, doesn't even work for me, but whatever. But if I make a razor and then squeeze, they squeeze as one thing.
Yeah. So that's mostly what I use it for. And if I'm migrating like a bunch of... So one thing I do like from John's course there is that if I'm zooming on a part of the screen in my tutorials, the next time I'm doing that, I'll just create a razor edit area for when I did the zooms and then paste it there and stretch it if I need to. Razor edit is awesome. I just haven't really introduced it into my workflow because I'm busy.
Yeah, same here, actually. I learned about razor edits this week. I knew they were a thing, but I didn't really understand what they were. But I learned about them, and it seems like this is freaking great. I am looking forward to actually using this.
It's awesome, yeah. So many things in Reaper are so next level that you need to get on that level to use the thing. You know what I mean? And but the good thing is you can never use it and you'll be fine as well.
Yeah. So another thing that I'm curious about real world experience here is something that I learned recently. It is item spectral edits. I didn't know that that was a thing. Do you use this?
Yeah. I, again, use RX most of the time, but yeah, you could use it. Like if you have, it's a really quick way of like deplosivizing or de-Sizing something. You just grab the S, you turn it down, right?
Yeah.
It's cool.
There is even a compression setting
and also
here.
Compress it. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm like, well, before I got Reaper, I had RX, so now I got RX. So sorry, Reaper. If I didn't have RX, I'd be using it all the time.
Yeah, I thought that was a kind of a fun feature that I don't know.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's insanely good.
Yeah.
Another thing it's good for is like guitar squeaks when you change chords, which I'm always like, I want that bit turned up. But yeah, you can also turn it up, find the squeak, turn it up. I like squeakage on the guitars.
And I guess there were more things that... Oh, yeah. So freezing. Do you find yourself having to freeze stuff to have enough CPU to work on things?
Oh, when you get to big orchestral bits, you will definitely be using freeze, because like orchestral, like I use East-West, and sometimes I need to freeze like my entire woodwind section before I start working on the string section. 100%. I never find that I need to freeze an audio. Like an audio origin, even if I'm doing sound design and there's like 11 plugins on my audio file, then before I need to freeze it, I have again committed to an audio file, like glued it or rendered it. Like as much as you get freedom with DAWs to never commit to anything, in my brain I need to commit to stuff and move on to the next problem. Otherwise I'm like, oh well, let's like unfreeze this thing that I created 8 months ago and make sure that 3654 hertz range is in place. It's like, fuck off, just move on, move forward. Always, I like what Dan Worrell said in one of the latest videos, like tackle the biggest problem first, and And like, yeah, committing to things is good because when you commit to things, like it's like, okay, like this problem is done. Now I need to work on something else. And I'll never come back to this problem. And that problem will probably make a minimal impact on the overall big picture of the project, right?
Yeah. Uh, I like the idea of keeping old versions around. Goes with my personality. I always want to. I use Git for everything. I don't only use Git for programming. I use Git for configuration. I use Git for. I used to use Git for recipes back when I was doing a recipe book. So yeah, I don't ever go back in history. That's another thing. It's never useful. I never do it. I agree with you.
But you keep it.
But I keep it. Yeah, I still have PDFs from all the things I did in university 15 years ago. I just keep everything.
Oh, me too. Cause I kind of like those, like if I wrote an essay, right? I'm keeping that, and one day I'll use it. Is what I tell myself. But I think with the commitment thing, I think there's a point where it slows you down. There's a point where having 30 takes is slowing you down and giving you zero. So it's like a risk versus rewards thing. But yeah, I keep older versions of my projects. I keep time-stamped backups because sometimes I need to go back 1 hour and there's a timestamp. This was what it was an hour ago. And a lot of that happens behind the scenes in Reaper anyway. So yeah, so like... But I need like the thing I'm focusing on. Do you know what object permanence is?
In Reaper? No. Or
no, it's a thing that happens. It's a psychological thing that I've had all my life. I just learned the name for it recently.
Okay.
It's something people with like ADHD have, where like, okay, if I need to pay a bill, that bill has to be right here.
Oh, yeah. Right? I know.
Because as soon as I put this bill away, I'll never pay the bill, right?
Yes, I understand that. Yes, because object permanence sounds like a technical term. Well, it is a technical term, but it sounds like a technical term in computers. And I was like, is this related to object-oriented programming or to object editing in DAWs? And what is that? No, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess
but in DAWs, it's the same thing, right? Like if I have 10 things in front of my face, then I'm focusing on all those 10 things. As soon as they go away, I never even think that, oh, there was like another take to my guitar. It's like, nah, it's done.
Yeah, and the fun thing is that I'm not like that in real life. If I have something that I haven't used in a month, I am starting to think, well, shouldn't I sell that? But with information or with computer stuff, I am like that. I guess I hoard data. But I have another question about spectral editing that I forgot to ask, because I haven't really used RX for spectral editing. So my question is something that I cannot do here. I can compress, I can gauge, I can just good old gain, and I can even fade stuff, which is kind of neat. But one thing that I cannot do, as far as I can tell, is have control over the FFT window used to perform this spectral edit. I cannot change the FFT size, I cannot change the hop size, the overlap of the windows, I cannot change any of that. Is this something that you can do in RX, and is this why people prefer to use RX?
I mean, RX just like interface is also just, I don't know, like it's easier to drag stuff around. It's easy to do something like there's other things you can do, which I never dove deep into Reaper's version, but like in RX, you can select an area like you did right there, and then you can duplicate it. Can you do that in Reaper? Just duplicate that area to the next door without the rest of it.
Like this?
You can copy the edit, so you can copy the edit, but that's the spectral edit area, but the underlying audio information is still the same stuff, right?
I see.
Yeah. So RX has tons of like algorithmic features that aren't here. And you can change the FFT size. Yeah. Could you change the FFT size per edit? I'm not sure. I never had to. I just usually have an FFT size that I stick to, possibly just because my understanding of it has never been insanely advanced until recently, but I've always just have been using like kind of a like big one. Big FFT size. For speech, it makes sense. Like they always told us, big FFT size, small edits. So if you're declicking, don't choose the whole word, choose the click, and then use a high FFT. Because the pre-ringing is not an issue if you're choosing an area that's only like almost the size of your FFT window size anyway.
Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah,
I have been getting into the theory of all of that recently. So I know a lot about the theory, but I don't know about the practice. So when you say that a FFT size is big, how big is it? And what about the hop size? And what kind of window do you use?
Oh, like in RX, I think I use 4096. And then sorry, what was your next question?
The overlap size, the hop size.
Oh, I think I used just 2x for dialogue anyway. I mostly like 90% of my RX uses for dialogue editing. There's music things you can do with it. I never do. Like for some reason in music, if there's like noise, I'm just like, I play the whole mix. If I don't hear the noise, I don't deal with it. You know what I mean? But in dialogue, like you need to deal with stuff, and it's always been recorded in non-optimal environments. Like so, there's like resonance and things like that. Whereas in music, it's like, I mean, if you're recording drums in a place where there's a 150 hertz resonance, like don't, because there's a lot of information there. You don't want to get rid of it.
And what kind of window do you use?
What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
Maybe this is
Like
not an option in
yeah.
RX then, but
it must be. It may just be
these
something
kinds
that,
of windows.
Oh yeah, Blackman Harris rectangle. Yeah. I think I use Blackman Harris.
Okay.
Just because it was that, and I never changed it.
Okay, that's the one that I tend to use on the things that I'm doing, but I'm not doing spectral editing. I am doing more like detecting melodies and that sort of thing.
Yeah. In dialogue, like the thing you can also play with in RX is the scaling of the frequency, but you have lots of control over it. So if you want like 100 hertz to 300 hertz to be a full third of your screen, you can do that. And so with dialogue, you usually focus on like between 100 hertz and 10K. And then you usually just remove stuff below 100 hertz, and past 10K, like you may not touch it much, but you don't also like do spectral editing in 12K or something, right?
So you're talking about these kinds of settings, right?
Right, yeah, but here in Reaper, you can just kind of stretch it. But in RX, you can stretch it any which way you want. You can say 20 to 100 this amount, and then go select another area and drag that however much you want. You really can like change the hell out of that. You can make your 19K to 20K be half of the screen if you so please. I don't know why you would want to, but you can if you want to.
I see. I haven't really played around with...
And just, yeah, like the rendering of the video of it, like RX is more high quality spectrographic than Reaper.
So probably they
definition is
tuned
like
their
more.
FFC size and everything in a way that looks better.
Yeah, looks like especially when you get it really hot in Reaper, it starts to look more like... I don't know if grainy is the right word, but yeah, grainy. And in RX, it stays crisp and sharp and nice.
I see. Let's see if I messed something up in doing that. No.
What did you do?
I was playing around with those settings, and I was afraid that now I was going to get the wrong peaks everywhere. But no, it seems like I still have it right. But the other thing in that menu is spectral peaks. Do you use that?
Yeah, I like them. Yeah. they're great for certain things. Like any kind of monophonic instrument, you can tell which note is what after a while you train your brain, right? You can be like, all my E's are blue, and then you can find some stuff based on that. With like transient stuff, like with drums, it doesn't really work too well because every transient on a drum hit is like every frequency ever, so it just turns black anyway. Well, yeah, you can detect like S's with spectral peaks if you kind of train yourself to do that. Can't really detect the difference between an S and an F, but definitely an S and a sh sound or a k sound or a yeah, things like that. I do like it. It's cool and it's cute.
Yes. All right. We have been talking for a while. Is there something that we haven't covered that we think we should?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, there's so much that we haven't covered, right? But like I guess we kind of went to some realms of things in the realm of spectral editing. I don't know. Did we talk about zooming the waveforms? That's another thing.
Oh yeah. You mean how you can zoom the display but not increase the volume?
Yeah. Display gain, they call it. That's shift up and down by default.
Yeah. I know that one, and that was one of the reasons that got me into Reaper in the first place, because I was recording too low. I didn't know that, but I was recording too quiet, and I dropped things like in Logic, and I couldn't ever see a waveform. And then in Reaper, I was like, whoop, zoom, and now I don't use that anymore because now I know how to set my levels, but I liked that was possible.
You can zoom in Logic too, by the way.
Yeah, you can zoom in Logic. You cannot zoom in something else that I was using, but I forget what it was.
I think Ableton, can you do it in Ableton? I don't think you can do it without boosting the gain.
In Ableton you can, and it is silly, but you can. The way you do it is you increase the item volume real loud, and then you put an effect, but because everything is 64 bits, then it works. But it was something else.
Yeah, but it's still like very hacky and not like natural and organic to do it, I feel like.
Yeah, no. Yeah. There is one pet peeve I have about this. I was getting into how this even works, and if I increase the volume of an item, it doesn't show up here because this is the volume of the take. Isn't that annoying?
Yeah.
And the volume of the take takes effect as well, so they compound. Now my, I guess 13 became a 6. Isn't that confusing? I find it confusing.
I guess what I have for that is item labels, and so I have a volume knob there. But yeah, I know what you mean, because for example, I have hotkeys to bring my item volume, like nudge my item volume up or down by 1 dB, but that doesn't move the knob. And if I move the knob all the way, but it also has a benefit, and the benefit to that is of an item volume knob goes up to plus 12 dB, but then I can use my hotkey to boost it past plus 12 dB. It bothered me a little bit, but now I just accepted that as the reality of what it is, and I can't change it, so I just accept it, man.
All right. Okay. Let me see if in the chat there is something that the people want us to talk about. No, I think that's it. So how about we wrap this up, and on Monday we are going to have another stream together, and it is going to be on my channel. We decided, right?
Yeah, I think so, because I may just at any given point have to leave. So yeah.
Yeah. So on Monday we have a very special stream because we have a very special guest. Tail from the Reaper forums has been around forever, wrote so many great JS effects, and he is going to join us, and we will talk about
what's he written, by the way. I should do some research on him, because I always do research on our guests so I don't sound like an idiot.
Yeah, go ahead and...
But yeah, what's his username?
Tail.
Like in Reaper forums.
Tail TN.
Oh, Tail in Reaper forum?
Yeah. I guess I visit different parts of the forums because I tend to find the parts of the forums that are more like DSP related. And
Yeah.
he's been there forever. I guess there are plugins that he wrote 10 years ago or even more than that. Right, so very special stream on Monday. Tomorrow I am not going to stream because today was a long stream and I don't want to be on camera for too long. So tomorrow I will not be streaming, but on Monday we have a very special stream, and make sure that you all join the Discord, either the one that we created or the other one, if we end up having a channel in there, whatever. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much, Arya, for teaching me everything that you know about Reaper. It is always a delight to stream with you, and thank you everyone who was on the chat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, Leandro.
yeah, and make sure that you tune in on Monday at 6:30 UTC to talk to Tail. All right, bye.